Hello and welcome back to the Ecuador Insider podcast. Jesse, Brandon, pleased to be with you on this beautiful day. I always like this time of year, like the in-between rainy season and dry season. You sometimes get these stretches where it's just hot and sunny for all day, for extended periods.
Some, man, yeah. Blue skies, a few clouds, but it's a nice one.
It has been lovely. So guys, thanks for tuning in. Right away, let's hit like, please, if you don't mind. Give us a comment. What do we want them to comment on?
I don't know. I mean, you've got the cool hat on today. You've had that the last couple times. I like the hat, man. Do you like the hat? Do you guys like the hat? If you like the hat, say the hat is cool. Say chévere. I don't know. Say mushroom hat.
It is a mushroom
hat. It is a mushroom hat.
It is a mushroom hat.
It's a magic mushroom hat. So comment magic mushroom hat. And not only that, if you're watching the video and you're not subscribed to the channel, just go right now, hit the button, subscribe. Really helps us out. Subscribe to the channel. We get, I mean, there's like 60% or more of the views we get that they're not subscribed.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. Subscribe now, please. Helps us out. I don't know. It doesn't really, but
I don't know. It helps our egos.
It does. There we go. Yes.
Our numbers go up.
Yeah. That feels good. That feels good.
Guys, if you're interested in this area, come down and join us. I got the date wrong last time. Is it 29th?
The 29th.
August 29th is our next Vilcabamba lifestyle retreat. I think we're on our 8th, I want to say.
Yeah, 8th or 9th.
8th or 9th. So, guys, we've got this dialed in. It's a lot of fun. Check out the reviews on WeTravel. Check out the reviews on our Google Maps page.
Yep.
I don't know how many companies in the world can proudly, promote the reviews on their Google Maps page. I mean, anyone can leave them. Haters can leave them. Competition can leave them.
Yeah.
And, people have to really like you and go out of their way to leave a 5-star or a positive review there. I proudly go check out our Google Maps.
I mean, especially for a little place like this, it's not like we're in some big metropolitan area where you're getting hundreds and thousands of people through your business. It's like, no, dude, we've got, I don't know, there's probably 70 plus 5-star reviews on there. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty proud of that.
No, I'm curious. I think I just want to check this real quick. Yeah, so our average review out of 5 stars is 4.8 with 73 reviews.
73, right.
Yeah, that's impressive, man. I'm impressed by ourselves.
You could look at look at Vilcabamba. There's probably, most places don't have anywhere near that amount of reviews. Probably the only place in this region that has that quantity of reviews, which is probably 5 times what we have actually, is Ishkailuma.
I was about to say Ishkailuma, and they're 4.7, and that's because that place freaking rocks.
They're awesome, yeah.
Like A+.
Yeah. Super A+. Yeah. Now, speaking of Ishkailuma, we should talk to Peter and see if he wants to go do that, take us on that
hike.
That Mondongo ridgeline hike.
That'd be awesome.
I would do it if he wanted to go. I would do it without him, but
we should.
Be cool.
One way or another, we should do it.
Go do it.
Yeah. So anyways, come down, check out the retreat. You got the links below. You can see videos as well, which I assume we put in the links. Do we put those links in the video of previous retreats? Check out the reviews. If you're interested, if you're interested in this area, I promise you there's no better bang for your buck, better use of your time, and better way to just learn everything in one shot and have a blast. So we encourage you to come down. If you got any time at the end of August, early September, even if you just want a vacation, highly recommend it. If I don't say so myself.
You do.
If I don't toot my own. All right, we're done with that part. All right, what are we talking about today? Well, let's see. I had a just a funny little anecdote the other day. So there's I won't say their names because I don't know if they would want me to, but there's some folks in town who I've known for, I don't know how many years, 8 or 10 years. The first time I met this gentleman had to be about 10 years ago when I went down to Puerto Cayo, place with Rowan's actually, to meet a friend of mine who was there, Will, who was staying at this place, and it was just sort of a getaway. It might have been even like 12 years ago, but yeah, it probably was actually 12 years ago or so. Little getaway, go to the beach, hang out, have a little fun. So anyways, this guy was running like a bar hotel, like a hotel with a bar, beachside down in Puerto Cayo. It actually got ruined during during the earthquake in 2016. Some of the buildings practically collapsed.
In Puerto Cayo?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Coast Guard, Manabí got rocked.
Yeah.
I mean, Puerto Viejo, which is not far from there, it's close to Manta.
Yeah.
Got really. But, anyways, he's a cool guy. He had a cool little setup down there. Rowan's almost died on that trip. My friend Will saved him on his surfboard.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, literally almost died, and it would have been my fault because he's from the Amazonian region, and I'd basically never been in the ocean in his life. And I grew up on the East Coast where oceans are not dangerous. We don't really have undertow like that on the East Coast. Riptide. Apparently they do here.
Yes,
and
they do.
We almost died, but particularly him. So I was able to get back in, and he got pulled out to sea, and he was gonna die. And I ran and get Will, and he jumps in on his surfboard, and then I go to look for a boat. And by the time I get back in a boat,
he's got him
Will had him on the shore. But I mean, it was actually almost died.
Yeah.
Would have been dead by the time I got back on the boat for sure. But anyways. So I met this guy down there. So he's here now. They live in Vilcabamba, him and his wife, or I don't know if they're married, but him and his significant other live here. They rented a place. And so she has a broken foot or some kind of injury with her ankle or foot. So I get a text the other day just looking for physical therapist. I recommended, of course, Amy, but I mentioned she's out. She's not here right now. She's may not be back for a while.
Yeah.
So I hear some other here's some other people that they're not specifically physical therapists, but they may be able to help. And we're kind of going back and forth. And I just wanted to read real quick, because they haven't been here long in Vilcabamba. They've come to check it out a couple of times, and then now they're dealing with this stuff, and they're starting to learn the resources that are available to you here. And we're going back and forth. I'll just read her last text. She goes, "Amazing how many resources there are in such a small town. So fortunate to be here."
Awesome!
Exclamation point. It's it's just so true. To be in a 5,000-6,000 person town and have, any health ailment you're dealing with.
Right.
There is a plethora, a multitude of great people to help you.
Right. And experts in their field, top of their field people that are choosing to call this place home. They don't have to live here.
Yeah.
They want to live here, and there's people that are choosing to live here and practice, their methodology, their modalities, their healing capabilities, and share it here, dude. It's really, really cool. I mean, even Bella's orthodontist, man. His office is in Loja. His mom's got a house here.
Yeah.
When we were investigating whether we were going to do this, who we were going to do it with, whether what the different options were, and we go to interview him, he's like, "I'll come there. My mom's got a house." We go to his mom's house.
Yeah.
And he brings his laptop, and he has this whole presentation. It's really, really well done, but that level of I'll come to you, it's like a doctor's visit at my mom's house.
It's like a doctor's visit in the 50s.
Right. And do you want something to drink?
Right.
At his mom's house.
Yeah, that's that beautiful. It's that beautiful mix here of lack of liability for things, professionalism, and casualness.
Right.
It's
It's very charming.
Right. That's the right word.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
I was on Facebook, which I know you still make fun of me for, but I was on Facebook, I don't know, this morning maybe, and or yesterday, and I came across this political. It was a news item in Spanish from a Spanish-speaking. It was from let's see if it says what it was from. Ecuador.tv. So I don't know if that's it's some sort of media outlet here.
Sure.
So. And it was actually, I found it interesting, right? So I'll just give a little bit of the history here. So, Ecuador has a very interesting history. It's could be accurately described in many ways as a banana republic, right? Both in the very literal way of it's the #1 exporter on earth of bananas, number one producer on earth of bananas, but also just in the, the coups and the revolutions and the, people being deposed and political turmoil and currency collapse and all that kind of stuff if you look historically, right? And then it had this phenomenon where in 2006, Rafael Correa comes to power, and the dynamics in Ecuador really shifted at that time as a result. So Rafael Correa, who was, and that was kind of part of that red wave or pink wave or whatever they were calling it at the time of politicians in Latin America who were socialists. Like he came to power. So Chavez came to power in '98, and then there was Correa, and I think Bolivia went that way, and Brazil did at one point, and I want to see at least a couple of others. So Correa comes to power. He calls himself, it's the Citizens' Revolution. He calls himself a 21st century socialist, and he does some things that are pretty wild. I mean, stuff that like you would think of as caricatures, but were totally real. Like he did these things called, and Fernando could pronounce I don't know if I have the word exactly right, but he did these things called like sabatinas or sabatinos, which were like these obligatory in the sense that they were aired many hours long, like 5 hours long, or I don't know how many hours, like many hours long on Saturdays, that it was just him in front of a paid audience who they would bus in and give sandwiches to and like, bribe them basically to be there. And he would just, it was really the stuff of movies that are spoofs, spoof Latin American dictator, we're the most amazing, rah! It was like 5 hours of that. It was amazing. I mean, there would be music, and he was very charismatic, good-looking guy. Women voted for him just because of his looks at the beginning. That was, apparently Noboa has some of that as well.
He's got some of that.
But, anyway, so he takes over, and we get the phenomenon of Correísmo, of the political ideology of Rafael Correa, which is very similar to the political ideology of Hugo Chavez, of Fidel Castro. It's that political ideology, and it took root here in a very substantial way. I mean, at one time he was extraordinarily popular. Like the first at least 4 years of his presidency.
Is that when he was giving everything away?
That was when he was doing massive infrastructure.
Yeah.
Same as like in Cuba and same as in these other places at the beginning, massive infrastructure, basically bringing Ecuador into international standard infrastructure. He really did that between 2007 and 2013, like tons of infrastructure. And the reason he was in for 10 years is because the first two were unelected, and then they redid the Constitution, and they redid the Constitution, and then he was elected twice. So he's very popular at the beginning, and to this day, he has like a really hardcore, loyal, like 30% of the country that is just Correístas. Like they will live and die with that man and whatever he says, and his, he could do anything and they're in, right? And so it's the most powerful political bloc in Ecuador by far, because you have, I don't know how many, 20 plus political parties who divide the other 70%. Right. So you've got, parties with all kinds of platforms and all kinds of different ideas, and they divide. So the largest block of assembleístas, of course, is the RC5, because he rebranded. It used to be 35, but now it's RC5 is the Correa party. I think, which is Revolución Ciudadana, the Citizens' Revolution Party. Excuse me. So, sorry guys, I've had a cough here for a while. Sounds a little bit ugly, but so in that context, right, we've now had two presidents in a row who are not from Correa's party. But there's always that risk, there's always that danger, basically, that the socialists take over again, that the Correa's party comes back into power, and then if you really want to get into like sort of fear-mongering or conspiracy world, which could absolutely happen here, probably not at this point, but people are afraid that if his party gets into power, they'll bring him back, right? Because he's in exile, he's wanted, he'll go to prison if he comes here, he's charged with, I don't know what, I think embezzlement and I don't know what else. But he's wanted, literally, literally wanted. So he lives in Europe, and he's not, he can't step foot in Ecuador. So that's been kind of the political environment here since 2006. So he's in 6 to 16. Then we get his predecessor from 16 to 20, who split with him ideologically, which was, thank God. And then we had Lasso, and now Noboa. And Noboa is kind of aligned with Bukele and more like Trump, Bukele, I don't know how you pronounce the guy in Argentina, Milei or something. Him and some of those leaders. So
that's the phase we're in.
That's the phase we're in, exactly. And so in that context, I've come across this article. So this article says,
real quick before you jump into that, so with the split of the party, you said the Correistas had 30%, and then there's a bunch of other parties that make up that 70%. So before Correa, what was it, just like a free for all?
I don't really know. Like,
okay.
It was before my time. Like, I can't speak well about before 2013. I have obviously talked to people and gotten as much history as I could, particularly when like the Sucre collapsed in 99, 2000. Like, I understand that relatively well. And I understand some of the history of the politics, but which basically is such that, and I don't know the answer to your question, but basically it's such that like lots of presidents who were very corrupt and stole everything and got kicked out and then ended up either in jail or they tried to put them in jail. Like if you're president here, you like are wanted afterwards a lot of the time.
Right. So Lasso wasn't though, right? Lasso death crossed himself, right?
Yeah, because they were going to impeach him and he was basically finished politically.
Right, but not at least my understanding wasn't because he was corrupt. It wasn't because he was like going to go to prison.
No, I don't know that anyone's claiming that. They may be that I'm ignorant of, but
and that's so the the Lasso and then even the Noboa phenomenon is kind of unprecedented then, right? In the fact that it's been this wild west for all these years. Then it was a stronghold with the the Correista party, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's this new sheriff in town, kind of in somehow uniting or whatever he's doing to gather the votes, whether it's real voting or not, I don't even know.
Right.
Yeah,
sorry, I finished.
So that's kind of what's happened, or
yeah, I think so, but I don't know how unprecedented it is. Like, and again, I don't go back far enough to be able to talk about it well, but like I've had people tell me, I don't remember this president's name, but that I think it was in the 70s that they were having a problem with crime from Colombia and from other places, and they were doing something very similar to what they're doing now. That there was this president who was literally had the military on the streets rounding up criminals, particularly foreign criminals, and just sending them back to Colombia, sending them back to Peru, sending them back to wherever they were from. And they literally, according to this guy who was explaining to me, who knows, but apparently, like the crime rate in Ecuador dropped so substantially and went up equally in Colombia and in Peru, where literally the presidents of these other countries, I think particularly Colombia, was like, please stop. Like, stop. Like,
that's funny.
So I don't know. I mean, again, right? These places, if you take, I mean, originally it was like historically, like this whole region was Gran Colombia, right? Which was, I believe, that included Ecuador, or I could be wrong about that, but I know it was like Colombia, Venezuela. I think included Ecuador or maybe Peru. This is how it shows my ignorance here, but the reason I'm bringing that up is just because like this could all just be one country pretty easily. Like Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Venezuela, Colombia, like that could all Panama. Well, further geographically slightly different, but sure. Like that could easily just be a country, and these could be states, or some sort of territorial divisions or not.
Totally.
I only bring that up to say like it's such a small country. Like to have an influx from your north or from your south, it's a different concept than, for example, in the U.S. where it's like you can have floods in from the south, but culturally they're different. Here they're not. And then you're not going to have floods, you're not going to have Canadians flooding the border anytime soon. Although the way things are going there, who knows? But
Ecuador's the size of Colorado, I think.
Right.
It's small. Right. The other thing I was thinking of with the Noboa's party coming in, and there was like some chicanery going on with the Correistas, because I remember That's why he sent the Ecuadorian military to the embassy in Mexico, right? Because the vice president. So this is the story I heard, that the former vice president under Correa,
Jorge Glass,
went
to prison.
He's
either still in prison or he just got out. Yeah.
But he was seeking asylum. In Mexico, and the BOA, and I guess they were trying to. The story, they were doing some things to undermine his reelection, like some really
Look, I'm not saying that like there's corruption everywhere. I'm not really pro anyone. There's corruption across the board. This isn't about like attacking one and defending another, but it's clearly proven that Correa and the Correistas in that party were corrupt through and through and through, to the point it's like an ongoing thing, right? A lot of them, and it's interesting what's happening now, because there's a lot of stuff going on where they're starting to be prosecuted, potentially even in the U.S. But like a lot of these people, these officials in the Correa government live in Miami with the funds they absconded with, and they call them like the new wealthy, from Venezuela. That's a big phenomenon from Venezuela as well under Chavez, but. Yeah, I mean, just to give you an example of the corruption during the Correa presidency, I mean, they earmarked all of the money, and someone can look up how much money it was, like billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars, which here, hundreds of millions of dollars is a huge amount of money, for a oil refinery in like somewhere in the north toward, like on the coast, I think in Esmeraldas province probably, for an oil refinery, that all the money got spent. They never broke ground. Oh, no, it doesn't exist. It never existed. Like the land is there. Wow. It's just like a square piece of land. They didn't break ground. Wow. They spent every dime of the however much it was spent and now they're in Miami still spending it, right? Like, wow, crazy. Yeah. So I mean, that kind of stuff was, and they also made deals with the cartels. I mean, that's why we have the problems we have now, is because Correa was in bed with the cartels and allowed them to operate, and built them a beautiful port, and then allowed them to operate through it, and so they got a stronghold, they got a foothold in here. Anyways, I don't want to get so political. Yeah. The point is this, or you want to say?
No, well, it's interesting, the port thing, because that's when we were unsure when Noboa was running, and you're hearing like all this, there's a chance that
Luisa
Gonzalez was going to win,
and by the way, just real quick, I mean, she lost by 10 points. Right. 8, 9, 10 points. Right. Which here, I mean, that's huge. It's the largest margin since I've been here by a lot. Right. Yeah. By
but
at
it
least
went to a runoff, right?
Yeah, which is almost always.
Which is okay. But there was a lot of talk that like she was going to outright win, and people were saying that. And I remember I listened to the Off Leash podcast with Eric Prince, who's like,
the Blackwater.
Yeah, Blackwater. Yeah. And he had an operator from Ecuador, and it was a short episode, but he explained why, Ecuador was so strategically important for the United States, and talking about the ports and all that stuff. And then that was shortly after Trump, was elected or selected, and you see Noboa front and center at his inauguration. Yep. And I'm like, wow, this is a done deal. Like,
right.
It's over.
You felt like the fix was in, type of thing.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, it doesn't even matter.
It could be,
right? But I never thought, because we talk about, often I think people that haven't been here that watch our content or think about, other people's content from Ecuador, they don't realize how small of a place it actually is.
Tiny.
And then same with Vilcabamba, people's perceptions of what, the size of Vilcabamba, even though we say all the time it's 7,000, it's a small, sleepy village in the Andes Mountains, but somehow people's perceptions are that it's much bigger than it is. So even for me, and being here, yes, knowing that there's a port, and knowing that, there's cartels controlling ports for drugs, still in my mind thinking, it's not, we're so small, it doesn't even matter. But then this podcast made me understand it differently from a different perspective on how, geographically, strategically important it is. Yeah. And then the next level was that, wow, it still only matters because You know, the CIA and other intelligence agencies are funneling coke into the countries we are from, into Canada, into Europe, and into the United States. Yeah. Like, that's all that matters. And that they're involved in that, managing that trade. Like, well, shit, of course, yes. So is Noboa dealing with cartels? Yes, I'm sure he is too.
At some level, for sure.
At some level,
but
right?
We'll see, though. Like, you don't give any... I mean, first of all, I agree. Like, there's no... I don't think anyone who studied this has come to the conclusion that the CIA runs cocaine, period, end of story.
Right, ask Tom Cruise.
There's no... I don't think that's a debatable, topic. But you don't give any... there's no possibility in your mind that some of that tide may have turned, and there may be a different, that may not that there's not still, I'm sure, a faction within the CIA doing that stuff. I'm quite sure there still is, but that maybe the sort of proliferation of the child trafficking and the drug trafficking and the people trafficking and all of that stuff. Yeah. There may actually be, in the form of Bukele, in the form potentially of Trump, in the form potentially of Noboa and others, that there may not be an actual, real effort to curb that.
I mean, I would say I don't give it a zero possibility. I think it's possible that they're doing something and actually care. It doesn't mean it. That's just like it's a new cartel. It's a different cartel. Maybe like the struggle is like which cartel is going to do it. Like if we want to stop the movement of drugs, cocaine, like how easy is that? If we actually wanted to stop importing cocaine into the United States and into Europe.
Why do you say that?
How you don't think that would be, with all the technology we have now available, you don't think that's something that we could stop if we actually wanted
I don't really know.
Cartels to stop doing that?
I don't really know.
I mean,
probably.
I would say it's probably can.
It's kind of a good point, too, in terms of all of that stuff.
Right. So that's my point. Is how much do we, there's rhetoric.
Right.
There's talk. There may be some policies. There may be some things, and there may be, it might feel like that, but man, there's still cartels that are fighting for priority. For owning that, to have that relationship with these powers that be and whoever they may be. Yeah. So until that is like cut off and like, no, this is not okay anymore. Like. Yeah. There's like a real war on drugs, but I don't even know if I believe it.
Right.
Exactly. So
and anything you fight against, you just give power to anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think that as long as there's people that want to blow lines and smoke crack,
right.
That the drug trade exists and cartels are going to exist and there's big money in it. So there's going to be nefarious, cutthroat, dark people involved in that regardless.
Yeah,
right?
I'm a little more optimistic than you are, I think, on some of that. But especially, like, what I'm enjoying, and I want to get back to this article at some point, but what I'm enjoying, like, I'm enjoying so many things about this current time we're in. But, like, one of the things I'm really enjoying is just the exposure of everything. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like what we're watching right now in this time is you can't hide anything anymore. Yeah. I mean, did you see that video of the president of France with a couple other, with Keir Starmer or whatever, whatever the Canadian, or was that, no, the British Prime Minister and Macron and someone else, and they're blowing coke. They're hiding the bag of coke and the little spoon and it's like, okay, was that staged? Maybe it goes that far. Maybe the fix is into that degree. But if you don't think it was, it's what I'm saying, right? It's like you just can't hide anything.
Staged? Like, why would they stage that?
Well, how far do you want to go, right? Like, I don't necessarily believe this, but are these actors who are not really,
sure.
If you want to go that far? But I'm saying,
I thought you meant were they blackmailed that they had to get caught.
Or that. Maybe that. I don't know. I wasn't thinking that, but.
Oh.
But, you know, if you don't believe that and you just say, like, well, this just happened, which is my
dummies.
assumption, is this
Right.
just happened. Yeah. You know, it's a great example of what I'm talking about. Like, you know, here you have this man who may be also married to a man. It seems pretty likely.
That's wild.
And he's blowing coke, and both of those things have just come out in the last months. And it's like, to me, that's just what we're seeing with everything.
Right. Well, that's the apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
That's the
all
apocalypse.
that is hidden will come to the light.
Right.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
That's beautiful. Right, and that's where, you know, people that live in fear and that live in that Mad Max, apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic, you know, narrative, that's what they're missing. Like,
right.
That's it's the wrong. I mean, you can make it that definition if you want, but it's the definition of the original root word in Greek was not that. You know, it was just revealing of unknown. You know, things unknown are now known. Nothing will be hidden. That's this. This era.
And that's so for me, like when I see, and it's part of what I love about Ecuador is like, Ecuador has a less of a gap to bridge between falsities and reality.
Yeah.
It's like Ecuador never relied on outside assistance for things, right? Like Ecuadorians have relied on themselves for the history of the country.
Yep.
So there's a lot, they don't have that same belief that needs to be like collapsed that other places have.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's one of the things I really like. But so I really think as we see the great exposure, the great reveal, as we see all these things coming to light, I think the forces that are working against that are largely sincere. Like that, like the forces that are ostensibly against the nefarious stuff that's going on, right? Whether we're talking about drug trafficking or we're talking about whatever we're talking about, corruption and graft and all of it. Yeah. I think are relatively sincere. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. That's a totally another conversation. But
I would just say that, like, I wouldn't say I'm pessimistic or optimistic. I think it just is. Like, I think this is just another time where this is people doing things, saying things, and I don't put a lot of weight on what politicians say, and I haven't for a long time.
Yeah.
And these are all politicians that are doing dumb things, whether they're just dumb and getting caught with a bag of coke on TV, or they planned it, or they're I don't even care. Like, and I honestly don't care what they say either. Like, until I see like tangible change, and you can make the argument we are seeing some of that.
Yeah, I would.
To me, that's all that matters. And at the end of the day, it only matters as much as you want it to. You know, like.
And how much should it is another part of that too.
Yeah, and I enjoy being here and not having to live in that, where you don't have to in the States either, but most people I know do. Most people I know are either a Fox News lover or a CNN lover or an MSNBC, and that's it. And that's where they get their worldview. That's what shapes their worldview. That's what all that matters. It's almost like that's the news. Like, there's no like 6 o'clock news anymore. Now it's Fox or MSNBC or Fox or CNN, and that's it. And then the other is the enemy. It's like it's the enemy.
So absurd.
And this is it. And that's my worldview. And I don't know. Like, I'm okay with, even when I go back to the States and I'll watch some of that, and it's just so obvious. Like, when they have their balanced, regardless of which station, when you watch their balanced take, and they have, this is the Republican analysis on CNN, or this is the Democratic analysts for Fox, and you're like, oh, it's just they're just full of shit. Like, they're just totally like walking the line is within tolerance of that viewership. Like, they're not actually giving analysis. They're not. So it's just, like, you can see it's just all kabuki theater, man.
Yeah.
It's all, So I don't know. I just really enjoy living here and being able to dabble in that and see it, but not having to live in it every day and not having to deal with that stress and, you know, because it doesn't change anything. Like, yes, in an extreme way on the margins it can, or if in an extreme, like, acute way it can, but day to day, man, it doesn't really change anything other than if you allow it to, it can change your attitude,
it can make you
your
upset,
energy,
basically.
it can make you angry, it can make you upset, it can make you depressed, it can make you scared.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't have to do that. Like, we can live here for months at a time and not consume an ounce of that, and it's fine. Like, there's a text chain I'm on with a couple of guys where it's about markets, it's about investing, like, really smart guys. Two of my best friends in the world, one I've known since, you know, he spent the night at my house in kindergarten, second grade. Known him for 40 plus years, and really smart guys. But it's always about, you know, this particular chain is about markets, investing, you know, very successful guys, both of these guys. And I, you know, over the last month, where we had my parents and Tiff's parents come for, you know, or her parents came for a week and my parents came for 3 weeks, and we had the retreat. So for the last month, I've been completely disconnected. You know, I'll like chime in occasionally, but I'm like, I've totally removed myself from keeping up with, you know, markets, politics, anything, tariffs, any of that stuff for like a month. And it's funny now, I'm, you know, all that, my parents are gone, the retreat's done, we had some time, I'm like catching up. It's like, I didn't miss any, you know, it's like, yeah, you missed a lot. You missed a whole bunch of machinations and jawboning and scared and fear and this is going to happen and oh my God. And then at the end of the day, it's like, oh, the Dow, you know, the S&P's, you know, 5%, you know, off the highs again. You know, it's just like, what was the point? Is there a point in like being in it like that?
Yeah.
And what does it do to you? Like, I didn't feel like I missed anything. I didn't feel like I almost feel less stressed not having been part of it.
Of course.
You know?
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, for like people who are very wrapped up in that, what you're saying is going to trigger people and sound blasphemous.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you mean it doesn't matter? You know, like, right? But I couldn't concur more with your point. If you get very caught up in that, regardless of your beliefs, if you get very caught up in that, it has negative outcomes. It has negative results for you in your life. And another piece of that is just you're not in control of it.
Right.
So putting your energy and your time into something you're not in control of is just a bad recipe. You know, it's just not a recipe for anything good. And lastly, to continue to agree with you, you know, those conversations here essentially don't happen, at least in my realm. And you know, it's amazing how consumed people are back home by that stuff.
Yeah.
You even see it when people visit here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like they want to talk about politics, and they want to talk about Trump, and they want to talk about tariffs, and they want to talk about this and that. And it's like, I don't really want to talk about any of that. You know, like that's not really relevant. You know, and again, I don't want to like underplay.
Right.
Yes, war matters.
Yeah.
Yes, economic policy matters. It's not that these things don't matter.
And that's what I meant when I said on the margins or in acute
Right.
extremes.
No, and you absolutely did say that. But like, it's not that it doesn't matter. It's just that there's nothing we can do about it, and there are things that are within our control. Like, I can control when I wake up in the morning, what time, number one, I can control that. What I start my day with, you know, like, is it positive? Is it negative? You know, I can control how I treat my kids. I can control how good of a father I am. I can control, you know, how clear I am in my relationships. I can control what I do with my time. I can control with, you know, all my thought processes. And those are all within and a million other things. Those are all within my control, and those are the keys to quality of my life. Success or not, outcomes. Let's just say outcomes. Those do control outcomes. Whether you hate Trump or you love Trump, it's outside of your control. Therefore, thinking about it doesn't control your outcomes. It may, in a negative way, like it may be an opportunity cost. It may take away from focus you should be putting on other things.
Yeah.
You know, it may get you in a negative tailspin. Regardless, you could be like really happy with what Trump's doing, but be focusing on the other side and what they're saying, and being like in a negative energy
Right.
space about that.
Yeah.
Or you could hate Trump and what he's doing.
Right.
And be angry at that about that. Either way, that's not going to have a positive outcome.
And you can be controlled by your emotions. Like if you're too
Right.
emotionally, attached to that, or you're not realizing how much of your emotions are defining who you are because
Right.
you're attached to that, then you could actually make bad decisions that you are in control of because you're reacting emotionally to
Right,
things.
totally.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So
I think we saw a lot of that in 2020, 2021.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's part of what I really enjoyed about the whole cocaine thing, because it's the veil lifting. It's like, because if you're really caught up, and I don't think it matters very much either, right? So but if you're really caught up in the president or the prime minister, and they're supposed to be this and supposed to, and the institutions I believe in and these things I believe. If you're really caught up in that, and you realize, wait, the guy's a cokehead. That's part of what I love about it. Is like, well, for me, it's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right,
That's who these guys are.
Yep.
I mean, that's what these guys are. This is all a charade. Like, none of this is real. This is not. They're just trying to take your attention away from your life onto them, and then get you to believe things and operate a certain way and think a certain way and be in a certain energy
Just
field.
be distracted.
And be distracted, right.
Be distracted, man. Divided and distracted.
Yeah.
That's the goal, man.
So to see some of that, polish coming off.
Oh, it's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that in all kinds of things. This article is another example of that, right?
This is about Ecuador?
This is about Ecuador. So again, in the context of the power of the Correístas and that bloc, right?
Yeah.
So the title is, and it's in Spanish, so the translation, to translate in real time in written word is not easy. So I'm just going to kind of summarize here, but it's Ecuador puts an end to an era. More than 10 years of the Correísta domination has reached its end, right? That's the title. And so it talks
Real
about...
quick, where is this article from?
So it was...
This is like something that's been spread around Ecuador.
It's just, and I don't know, look it up, see what people think. I don't know what it means, but...
No, I'm just
Ecuador.tv.
Oh, that's
Ecuador.tv.
Okay.
Yeah. So it says, with the election, with the election, so basically, you know what? I'm not even going to try and read it. I read it this morning. I'm gonna say what it is. Yeah. So they elected a non-Correísta to the head of the National Assembly, which is a sea change, because the Correístas have something like, I don't look it up, but something like 40% of the seats are the Correístas, 30 to 40%. So they elected a non-Correísta with a coalition that didn't include any Correístas. So the entire...
No way.
Yeah, so everybody else in the assembly, the 60 or 70% of the assembly that's not Rafael, the RC5, that's not, created a structure in the assembly, including the heads of all the committees and the leader of the assembly, who are not Correístas and don't have the support of Correístas.
Wild.
Basically, they've reached what do they call it in Europe when they reach a coalition government? I think they have another word for it, but we don't have that in the States. But where the parties work together and they reach a majority based on the coalition or whatever. So it just talks about how, for 10 years, the Correísmo has this huge influence in the assembly, consolidating majorities and leading legislative processes and basically being the driving force of the political agenda, and that these results show that is over, they're saying. It's a multi-party coalition that excludes the Citizens' Revolution, Correa's party.
Wow.
And that it's a new, it symbolizes a new era. And again, just real quick, and Luisa just lost by 10 points,
right?
Which was also showed this as well,
right?
So these things all go in cycles, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I lived through the last years. So Correa was 06 to 16. I got here in 13, launched a business in January of 14. Correa went insane those last 2 years. He was announcing 75% inheritance taxes, 75% capital gains taxes on real estate, He was going the path of Venezuela. And what we saw the Ecuadorian population push back and say, no, we're not going that route. And but I lived through that time. I saw how it also doesn't matter.
Right.
Even in the extreme, which that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Even in the extreme, it also doesn't matter because, again, for all the reasons we discussed earlier. But to see the sort of, and these things are cyclical, but to see the sort of nail in the coffin on that, to see, we do have sort of a Bukele-style president now, in the midst of some violence and some cartel-related violence and cartel proliferation that we've had in the country. It's an interesting time.
That's kind of that reminded me of, that was some of the problems that I think Lasso had, where the assembly.
Right. Well, that was the problem he had. Yeah.
Right. He was and that's kind of what I remember hearing, that he was trying to do these things and have these accountabilities, but then so many of the Correistas, again, I don't know this. This is what I remember reading or hearing, that they were still trying to work certain deals with cartels that he was trying to change, and they were basically undermining everything he was doing. And that's where he finally said, "I'm done. I can't win. I can't do anything. I'm not going to sacrifice myself for another 2 years." That's where he did death cross. Everybody's done. Let's give Ecuador a chance, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it looks right now like it might have been a brilliant move.
Yeah, right. It seems like it, maybe, right? Yeah.
In the sense of it's interesting because I didn't think of that when I was thinking about this, but it's interesting to think about this in the context of what you just said, because that led to Noboa's election, and then an actual campaign against the cartels that seems sincere,
right?
And what I just read now, with sort of the collapse of the we'll see, but the collapse of the the RC5, so I don't know, like what I see, and it's all perspective. Like I think you see what you are, and you see what you believe. You see what you are. Really, you see what you are. So if you're like, whatever you are is what you see in the world. Like that's what you see from, we all see from our lens, from our perspective, right? So what I see in Ecuador, because you could take the other side. You could very easily see in Ecuador a narco state that's on the verge of collapse, that has political problems, violence. It's overrun by cartels in the port cities. We have a president who can't get it under control. Run for the hills, right? Like that's a perspective that is justifiable if you watch the news, if you look at crime statistics. Like, you can have that perspective. I wouldn't argue with anyone who wants to have that perspective. It's not mine, right? But so, like, for me, right, I have a perspective that the world is shifting. Like, the world is shifting. I see positive developments everywhere. At the same time, we see both collapse and exposure, right? So it's like both at the same time. So we see everything being exposed. So we see the darkness being exposed, and I think that's what we're looking at in Ecuador, right? We can look at other parts of the world and say the same thing, but it's like that's what we're looking at in Ecuador. We're looking at the violence and the cartels and the underbelly that are control whatever aspects they control are now very visual. Everyone can see them. How has the population responded? Huge solidarity. They elected the security president by 10 points when he really isn't very popular in many ways. We see huge solidarity with the military, with the police, with the fight against the cartels. I saw this thing circulating on social media where one of the problems in Ecuador is very light prison sentences for bad criminals. They just gave 4 guys 40 years, which is an unheard of sentence here, who were involved in a kidnapping and a murder in Guayaquil.
Amen.
They just gave them 40 years. So we're seeing, we're seeing the criminality being exposed. And then at the same time, the light is rising. And this is why I'm like it's perspective, right? Like, the light is rising. You look at the smiles on people's faces and the way people are relating to the world and the way people are waking up and realizing, you know what, actually, I don't want to work in the bank anymore. Like, I want to go live on a piece of land somewhere and, like, sit by the river,
Yeah.
and you're seeing, I love it. I think it's beautiful. I have so much faith in the people here, and
dude.
I think what's happening governmentally is a reflection of that in many ways. Like
Sure.
we're seeing the will of the people to however it plays out, we'll see.
Yeah.
But be carried out. I'll make a prediction. I think, and by the way, I'm always wrong on political predictions. I'm very good at real estate predictions. I'm very bad at Ecuadorian political predictions, so it's probably wrong. But but I'll make a prediction. I think we'll see over the next 5 years here this problem be addressed in a functional enough way that life gets.
Well, it's easy.
Yeah.
You've got to pick one cartel, stomp
do
out
what
the
Correa
others.
did. I mean, do what Correa did.
Yeah, I mean, that's. But I like the perspective, ideas you were talking about, right? Because we're all perceiving things, from ourselves, right? Unique, our perception, and my perception is different than your perception. So the perspective piece that you talk about, like that's how I think we create bridges, particularly as us, we're guests in another country. We're foreigners into another, we're not from this culture, right? So, local people perceive things, and for us as foreigners, trying to understand their perspective, on things, like that's where we create the bridges. That's where the culture crosses over, and it's not, at least my family and I and the folks that we hang with aren't trying to change culture. If anything, we're just trying to, soak up as much of it as we can because it's so awesome, and in no way change anything because it's beautiful. I think what's allowed us to do that is really attempting to understand the perspective, because again, I think the perception and perspective are different, right? They're different words, they mean different things. So everybody has a unique perception, but when you're talking about cultures and people and maybe it doesn't even matter, but trying to see it through their perspective or from their perspective, then you avoid, that's where you don't have arguments. You don't have, those types of, ooh, you gonna make it?
Nope.
Oh, I know CPR.
Oh, wrong pipe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but you have those relationships and those connections, and you don't have that divide. Like, if you authentically do that. Whoa. Holy cow. Five minutes later.
I'm not crying.
No. Well, since you're not crying, I saw this, Tiff sent this to me. It says, I officially resign from being an adult. Decisions will be made using eeny, meeny, miny, mo method. Arguments will be settled by sticking out my tongue. I'll be at recess if you need me. That's kind of how I feel here sometimes. And it's okay.
I saw that. I like watching people talk about NDE experiences.
Yeah.
It just gives me a reminder of what's important and
Right.
those kinds of things. I was watching one this morning, and it was just just talking about her experience on the other side and her just huge realization that none of this shit is real.
Yeah.
On this side,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
Who is the guy? He was in some of the Marvel movies. Jeremy Renner. He's done some. He's a good actor. He's done. I can't think of some of the. He did a military movie. He's done some good stuff. You know Jeremy Renner?
No.
I think he played Black Hawk, or I forget. Anyway, you'd probably know him if you saw him. But he was in, I think, a Bobcat at his property, like ran over him or something. He was like in a very serious accident. I just watched an interview with him where he was talking in depth about that that accident. It was like a really long recovery. I guess he actually died. And it was interesting to hear his perspective. I've listened to a bunch of the NDE experiences. I've read several books.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome stuff.
It really is.
But just to hear Renner, this is like this is a one-time A-list Hollywood actor that's talking about his experience of dying and, saying how he didn't want to come back.
Almost everyone's.
Yeah, I didn't, it was, him describe, very common to every other, or many other NDE stories. But for him to be talking about it, and then him going into why he decided, he chose to come back, whether he had, whether that was already decided ahead of time or not, I don't, I don't know. Right. But to hear him talk about
some people do describe a choice point.
Yeah, no, and I think he talked about that. But it's just, it's just one of the, you don't hear many, most of the celebrities, they're gone, they,
right.
They're not coming back.
Right.
And it's interesting, celebrity, for this guy to have that. And probably most people that were fans of his work probably don't even know, I don't think this was a widely, popular podcast or whatever, but it was just interesting.
I want to get back to the cultural stuff for a second that you maybe started before I rudely interrupted with drinking water down my lungs.
That's not. We don't recommend that.
No, it's not.
You made predictions.
You breathe air, you drink water.
Yeah. You can eat.
But so the cultural stuff a little bit. So, you talked about, right, so it's really easy. So if you're caught up in the matrix, right, and you're conditioned and you're programmed, which we all are, and you're caught up in the matrix and you're conditioned and you're programmed, and you're buying the bullshit, right, which is basically about status and it's ego world and what you have and your accomplishments and, I got the nicest this and that and the other thing. In that world, this country and the people here are shit.
Yeah.
It's there's not anything.
That's what they would think. Right.
That's what you would think. Right. And so, you can do that right? You can make judgments and you can sort of, if you don't do that, right? If you're not in that world and you don't do that, and you allow yourself to learn from the people here and the culture here and the way people go about their life here. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. And I even now, there's still layers and that I'm opening up to and layers I'm learning and layers that, are making sense to me that didn't 5 years ago and stuff like that. But just in general, the way people live here in many ways is almost like what some of the spiritual masters are pointing to in their books.
That's their end state.
Yeah. It's don't have expectations.
Yeah.
People here don't.
Right.
Don't make yourself unhappy because of outcomes that happen that you didn't want. People here roll with the punches. They have no expectations. They roll with the punches. They're good with whatever. They don't spend a lot of time railing against what is,
right,
or being upset because pushing back against reality,
or dwelling on it after the fact.
People here just don't do that.
Yeah.
The pace, the way they go about things, their priorities. People and family come first for people. They have this pace and this way they go about things that doesn't give them jacked up nervous systems and large amounts of stress and anger and frustration, and people here don't do any of that. Mm-hmm. People here, they're calm, they roll with what is, they're good with what is, they live relatively simple lives for the most part, they tend to be good people for the most part, they have their priorities in order for the most part, family, friends, community, children, they'll help, the all of that stuff is just, it's much more in line, in my opinion, here with a better, just proper way to live or a better way to live than the culture we come from. That is just much more. It's much more. I would argue we're much more conditioned, and we're much more sort of just caught up in ideas and belief systems and beliefs about ourselves and needing to, be something to other people.
Right.
Like, how much time do we spend in our culture worrying about our image and how we look and what people think of us and all this crap? People here just don't really do that.
Right.
Now, I'm generalizing, obviously. It's not everybody.
Yeah.
And certainly in the big cities that does go on, and in some of the upper classes, even in smaller places that does go on. People are people, there's human beings, it's nothing is black and white or across the board. But in general, man, that stuff here is, can I contribute here in terms of my skill set? And is there things I can teach? Sure. I have a certain way of looking at things, a certain business savvy, a certain logical, way that I look at things that can be useful here. But overall, I'm doing, 10 times more learning.
Oh.
In terms of like soaking up the way people their perspectives, the way they treat things, the way they go about things, what their priorities are, how they live. That stuff for me, it's like gold. I need it. Like, I need it. I'm actively like learning that. And so like you said in the beginning, we're like, if I don't remember what you said, but you said something about learning from the culture here, and it's one of the gifts of living here.
That's the beauty, and that's kind of when you talk about, back in the States, we're doing what we're told. It's kind of interesting dichotomy because, in some ways, Ecuador as a country, as a society, or this current state of Ecuador, they're not far removed from being slaves, and they're, just kind of like what you described with the Correa, they're just a few generations from slavery, and then having a socialist dictator, literally, whatever you want to call him, telling them this is what you think, this is what you believe, and people doing it, right? And then even during COVID, where you're seeing, there's just a few state-run media channels, and everybody has those, and you're driving through a rural, 3 hours away from a major population center, and you're seeing, 80-year-old people with masks in the middle of this epic, unadulterated, beautiful place there's no chemicals, there's no disease, and they're wearing masks because they're doing what they're told, right? So in one way, it's strange that, the culture that we're seeing here, particularly in this area where we live now, is not really like that. And where in the States, it's, you're keeping up with the Joneses, you're worried about what everyone thinks, and this is what success looks like because that's what we're told, right? And here, even though some things are do what you're told, the embodying life is not. It's the opposite, right? It's like, and because maybe nobody's telling them how to live. It's just like, this is the way we live, where I'm appreciating, every day. I'm living in the moment. I'm grateful for, the time I have, and, it's different. But it's kind of strange how it's so, in one way, do what you're told, and yes, I do what I'm told, and then in the other way, like on a day-to-day piece, wow, it's like such a different expression of it, and that's probably the biggest piece. Like, we went to the Novenas, celebration over there, and if you guys haven't seen, we just released a video yesterday or today, a couple days from when this will release. Check it out. It's the Novena Magic, but it really shows you like what the culture can be. Like, when you're a foreigner moving here, you did it, you married an Ecuadorian, right? So you dove in. I was already married with kids and came here, and one of the hardest pieces, for me, and feedback we have from retreat participants or other people to move here is like leaving family, right? That's the hardest piece. And the culture here is very conducive. If you are, what we were talking about earlier, if you eliminate your expectations, you stop judging, if you try and attempt to see things from someone else's perspective, man, the culture is endlessly giving in that way, where it can take away some of that fear and some of that angst of family, and all of a sudden, like, wow, you have family here. You have people that may treat you better than some of your family, and it's real here, and it's family because you were born there. It's family because they want to, it's family because you want to. So, and it kind of makes that transition a little bit easier. And like, that's something, that my family's got to experience that. Like with, I have an Ecuadorian grandma. I mean, she's like my Ecuadorian mom, but I call her, but it's from like my kids. It's a grandma, like, that takes care, then cooks for my kids and, like looks after them. And that's real, like, and it's a way, like my grandma was, I lived with my grandma for 18 years. It reminds me of that relationship, which is really hard to have now in the States. Most people don't spend time with their grandparents. They don't have time. They're in school, they're in activities, their parents are working too, both parents are working, or one parent's staying at home, but they're not spending a ton of time with their grandparents. So that, multifamily, that's magic, man. And you can be part of that here dude, that's gold, dude. That's like, yeah, I look forward to that every day, man.
Yeah, the dichotomy of the culture is interesting that you were talking about. It's like, it's hard to describe, but it's like, yeah, people here won't make a lot of noise about anything, but they're very solidified in what matters to them. So it's like, it's like they're not going to go rah-rah about much, if anything. But if they need to depose a president, they will.
Right.
It's like an interesting.
Yeah.
It's like interesting. It's like they will. They're very docile in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll really like, they're calm, they're tranquilo, right? They'll let things. They'll let you make a fool of yourself, and they won't say anything. Like they'll just let. But when it's time to when where the rubber meets the road, like if you push hard enough,
yeah,
and we've seen that really politically here a number of times, they'll really stand up in a way that's as solid as you can get.
That's awesome.
Very it really is. I was playing basketball. We finished playing basketball. What's today? Thursday. We finished playing basketball yesterday, and we were all like, it was like a funny. All of us were like tired. It was like all of us were like, it was like a lackluster,
low energy hoops day.
Undefeated. But
I'm not even gonna bring it up.
Bring what up? What? Oh, pickleball?
No, I won't. Oh
yeah. Well, you were.
Keep going.
You were the opposite of
Keep going.
that day.
Keep going.
So.
Did you lose 2-on-1?
I didn't lose to you. So
did you lose 2-on-1?
Yeah, I did.
I couldn't even see. I had friggin' sunglasses. It was nighttime.
What?
You lost two. Wait,
So
you and another player lost to a single person?
Uh-huh.
Holy cow!
I think I lost 2-on-1 twice, didn't I?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, but I didn't
Anyway, basketball.
Yeah.
So
we finished playing basketball, and we're talking about something, and we're talking about work, and I was talking about like, I had these twins, and now I'm spending like 24 hours a day with my two sons, and what that's been like, and I'm also like cooking and cleaning, and I'm like the nanny,
Mr. Mom,
house clean. I'm Mr. Mom.
Michael Keaton, remember that movie?
Yeah, of course, I'm Mr. Mom. And and then I said something about work. It was like, and I told them, I'm like, well, like I keep my Mondays clean, like I don't work. I keep my Wednesdays clean. I work a little bit on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Otis makes a joke, and he's like, oh, so, you're putting in a solid, like, 5 hours a week, huh? And I'm like, and we're all laughing. And I'm like, no, actually, probably 10, like, it's tough. I mean, I was joking. But But the point is, it just brought up for me some of the lifestyle stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, not very many. Now, Ecuadorians, a lot of them are working, a lot. And even some of the foreigners are on the grindstone. But for the most part, that's not what you're doing here, right? Like the amount of time. The amount of time I spend with my kids, the amount of time I spend. It's like even the work stuff is part of the lifestyle for me. Yeah. Right? It's like my kids are in the office half the time when I'm in the office.
That's because you got a babysitter. Because you're not in the. Your kids are in the office and you're not.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, so truthfully, I work a couple of hours often before they get up in the morning. I work sometimes a couple hours after they go to bed. And then I work...
After the Knicks, after the Mets.
Yeah, after the Knicks, after the Mets, exactly. Yeah. After I do yoga and read and have dinner and, But, rub some essential oils on my feet. But, it's like talking to the guys at basketball, it's like everyone's kind of, to some degree, doing that sort of thing. And it's like, it's wonderful. I mean, I don't think very many people have that back home. And I think, once you kind of set yourself up here, that's a really easy thing to have here. Especially if you have any sort of online work, or, and since COVID, that's very common, if you have any sort of online, your wife's a great example, right? She's working 20 hours a week, which for people here is a lot, right? But that's a U.S. salary, and you guys are spending it here. That's a great situation. And for anyone that has that opportunity, whether it's a fixed income, or
an annuity, a pension,
anything like that, or even just, I have this much capital, I'll stick it in the bank here and live off the 8-10% interest, or whatever it is. Or even you want to come here and start a business, whatever it is. But it's just very easy here. This place is very conducive to that kind of lifestyle, which it's like, the idea of working until you're 65. So you can go play golf 5 days a week for 10 years until you croak. That's not it.
Man. Yeah. That's kind of right. I kind of take it for granted now that we've been here for 4 years. But yeah, I'm going in the middle of the day to go watch a dance performance or go get a massage at 11 o'clock on a weekday and for 2 hours, or things that I didn't do in the States when I had because I couldn't, because even if I was after COVID, I was working from home for a couple of years, and it's not like I still had that flexibility. I still had meetings, I still had expectations, and all of that. But here, I don't realize until I'll send a message or I'll FaceTime video, like I did. I was walking back from my massage this morning, and I FaceTime my buddy Sean. And he rejects the call, and I'm like, "What the hell?"
And, are you working?
And he's like, "I'm in a project demo. Not some of us have 9 to 5s, asshole."
Right.
And then last week, So it's just that you just forget, oh shit,
yeah.
You kind of take
There's
it for
that
granted.
world out also.
Yeah, that's real. That's actually happening, right? People do that, right? Which is great. Some people, that's for them. It's.
No, it's not about great or not great. It's just options. Yeah. But that life for a lot of people wreaks havoc on their nervous system, on their health, stress levels, and I think it's just easy. I think it's just easy to kind of get caught up in that and lose sense of priorities. I think it could be really easy to just be 65 and realize you didn't really raise your kids, and you didn't really you didn't really know your kids that much growing up, because it's like they went from school to after school stuff to friends to activities, and it's I'm so happy that I'm está bien? I'm so happy that I get to it made me notice too. It made me notice the difference when I'm with my kids. A lot of the time, they're 4 and the boys are 4 and 6. When I'm with my boys, a lot of the time, they do so much better than if they're at being cared for by other people. Whether it's babysitter, whether it's school, whether it's play groups, whatever. It's they're do better in that with not in that environment.
Sure.
And anyways.
No, there's something to it, man. Yeah. There's It's choices, right? And that's kind of the hard part for people. I think when you're already in there and you have kids and you have a family and you have a 9 to 5, or you're trying to make ends meet and keep up with the Joneses or whatever, keep up with inflation and tariffs and whatever, things are getting more expensive or not, you're trying to do your best for your kids, right? That's what everybody's doing, right? Of course. So everybody's doing what they think is best for them and their kids. The hard part, and the part that I think actually, honestly, our retreat gives people an opportunity to it gives them at least a portion of time to think differently about the way they're doing life,
right?
Because it really pulls you out of that mindset. But it's really, you don't, when you're in it, you don't have time to even reflect. You don't have time to journal. You don't have time to think about, and that's, I've said this before, but that's kind of what got Tiffany and I, the courage to make the choice, to make, follow the call, to follow the inspiration, whatever you want to call it, was actually taking the time, like every day for months and months, maybe years, where we, who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you value? How do you want to spend your time? What do you want to teach your kids? Like actually thinking about those things and deciding, like, well, shit, I'm not the dad I want to be. I'm not the husband I want to be. I'm not the friend I want to be. I'm not the, pickleball player I want to be. Whatever.
Nor will you ever be.
But you think about it, okay, well, if I'm not that, well, who do I want to be? Well, I don't really know. So what's next? What do you value? And like thinking about your values, like thinking, like seriously, not just what do you value, what are your values?
Right.
And deciding that, like you can choose your values. You can choose your values.
Yeah.
And again,
you do, whether you know it or not.
Exactly. So you can do it consciously or not.
Right.
And that's different than choosing what you find valuable and choosing your value. There's a clear distinction there. And there's some crossover, I guess, at some levels. But like consciously choosing, your values, and then like, okay, once you've decided and committed to this set of values, because those values will help you be the person, living those values will help you be the person you want to be that you're not, well then, how do you do it? Well, that's it. You live them, right? So that's how you spend your time. So then, all right, well, it's not as easy as it sounds. I can't just spend my time living my values because I have kids to raise and bills to make and, and the activities to take to. So in the States, it's almost impossible to actually do that once you're in the system at a certain level, right? So here, the retreat gives somebody like a temporary unplug of that where they actually can contemplate some of those things. And then, when you go back and plug back in, it's you can choose to take time to do some of those, think through some of those things there or not. But here, not only does it give you the time, but then it shows you in real time, and you're seeing these other role models, whether you should role model or not. Don't role model me. But it gives you that real life social proof in front of you, like, oh, you can do it differently here, right? And so then it becomes real, and then that becomes inspiration. Like, okay, what do I value? Well, I don't want to spend, 5 hours a week working like Jesse. So I want to spend more than that, right? I want to spend 10 hours a week, or I want to spend, 6 hours a week. I want to spend, 6 hours a week in massage. Well, this area, this culture allows you to actually craft a lifestyle based on your values, if your values are conducive with the culture.
Right.
If you go through that exercise and you set your values, and your values are the newest, BMW and the Prada, the Prada bag every season, and if in 5-star Michelin restaurant every night, if that's becomes what you value, and those what I would call those things you find valuable, those aren't really your values. I would define your value something else, but I won't say that because I mean that's like a shallow value in my opinion. But if those are your values and you come here, it's, that's chew you up, spit you out. You're not going to like it even if you do visit here. But people that have different values and care about experiences and understanding culture and relationships and nature and what that, symbiotic relationship can offer, man, there's magic here for that, man. There's truly magic. It's just hard to get there when you're so plugged into that machine every day, man.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it conditions you, and it makes you feel like a lot of your choices are not choices.
Right.
It makes it feel like, well, I have to do this, and I have to do that, 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 and then that becomes your life.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not actually making conscious choices. You're just kind of making decisions within parameters that you don't think you can go outside of.
Right.
And so like coming here can shift that.
Right.
And, because like you said, it kind of pulls you out of it automatically.
Right.
And then it's up to you at that point.
Right. And there's always fear of the unknown because it is an unknown. Even here, even coming here, it's still unknown. It's going to be unknown for a long time. And that's the beauty of it. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying about, the gold and learning and understanding. Dude, if you are a seeker of like experiences and knowledge and learning and just self-development, any of that, like it's beautiful here because it's available in spades if you want it, and it's it doesn't cost you anything, right? It costs you some humility, which is probably a good thing for most people. It costs you some patience, which is probably a good thing for most people. It costs you some I don't know, kindness maybe, which I think those are all benefits. You can call them costs because you're going to have to be a little more kind, a little more patient, a little more tranquil,
a little more patient,
a little more. What was the first one I said? But I don't think those are costs, right? Those are what it costs to.
Oh, they're lessons. They're good lessons.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I have a buddy of mine, good friend. He was my best friend in high school. Known him since, second grade. But he was, I might have told this story before. He was on the swim team, and he wasn't one of the we were, me and a couple of my buddies we were sprinters. Like he wasn't fast enough to be in the the team sprints, right? So he was doing he was doing backstroke and some of these other events. But I'll never forget, we were at a meet, I forget where now, I never forget, but I forget where, at Lyons Township, anyway, we're at this meet, it might have been sectionals, and he's doing backstroke, and I don't remember if so there's a line of flags above the pool, so that are assigned for backstrokers. When you hit this line, I forget how many meters to the wall, right? And I forget, something happened with the flags, or the flags fell off, and it was just the line. The flags weren't there, so it wasn't as noticeable. And I'll never forget. He hits his head. He mistimes the turn, hits his head, and like literally just stands up in the middle of the race. He's like, fuck this. He's like, I quit. I'm done. I'm not finishing. He climbs out of the pool. He walks out of the pool, goes to the locker room. And I'm furious at this time. I'm like, you can't do this. I remember I'm grabbing him in the locker. You can't do this. Anyway, so he was probably my friend that was the most in the matrix for the longest time. He went to school. He went to University of Chicago for fashion design, and he was into brands and in that, and likes nice stuff, and still does, and he still has that. But his evolution over the last, I would say, post-COVID phase, he's been one of my friends that's probably come the furthest from who he was to who he is today in regard to the way he thinks about that stuff, with what, how he, what he, gives to his kids and what he, just the way he thinks about it. It's way more aligned with the way you and I think about things, which is awesome. This is a kid from Berwyn, from a city like me, like that was way further into it than I was. And he's coming to this, huge, step change different about the way he thinks about food and health and chemicals and, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And he just messaged me the other day, and because we're good, old friends, we give each other the business constantly, right? Mm-hmm. So especially on group threads with other people, like that's what it's all about. Like, for example, like I would be telling everybody about you losing 2-on-1 in pickleball, like
as you went winless.
Yeah, I don't even. That's not true.
It's true.
That was a win. Watching you lose 2-1.
That was a win.
And having it on video, that was epic. And I had commentary. But anyway, so he'll take shots and rib and what on group threads. He just messaged me solo the other day, and is like, hey, when are you coming back to Chicago next? I want to talk. Gina's his wife. Gina and I we're talking last night, and we really want to come down.
Really?
Yeah. Cool. So it was like, sweet, again, I'm not sure. I think there are things he would like about it, like the flushing the toilet paper thing. I'm not sure if he can get over the waste basket guy, like he was a chef, he worked in a kitchen for a long time. He was a chef. He had a restaurant for a while. I'm not sure if he can, get over some of the restaurants here, in that sense, from being from that phase. But the fact that he's like ready and want to do that, I'm like, sweet, dude. So I think that's just an anecdote. Again, it's but an anecdote of what you were talking about earlier with people, having the right, and he's getting his eyes opened, things being revealed, information coming to, your own conclusions if you're in control of that, right? And he was one of the guys that didn't take didn't offer that to his kids, and so it's interesting how many times that has coincided with choices made after that or evolution after that. So
big time. Yeah. Well, guys, if you made it this far, thank you.
Yes.
If you that's all I got to say. That's it.
Yeah. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, please. Like the video. Give us a comment below about what you'd like to hear us talk about. If you have questions, put them in the comments below or send us an email to info@abecuador.com. If you're interested in doing life here, come on down. Check out the link below. We're having a retreat August 29th through September 7th. Come take a visit. You'll have an adventure, meet some great people, have some great food. We'd love to have you down here one day.
So until then,
we'll see you next time, guys.
Take care, guys.
Huh?
I'm going to let him record now.
Oh, I thought we already were.
Well, we were, but then I want to talk about something that wasn't camera friendly.
Okay, what was that? Did we talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We good?
I don't remember now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was testing mail. So I wanted to, because sometimes, we'll get contact, somebody will download the retreat brochure or, and they won't put their name. They'll just have an email. So we don't even know who they are. But we'll, have like an email address.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to figure out a way to like reach out to folks without knowing their name, number one, but then not having to go through the cumbersome act of sending an individual email every single time for hundreds of folks. So I was just testing the mail merge feature using Gmail and Excel and all that.
Yeah.
That's all. So I needed a test to see if it worked before I even tried to do that, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was that, man. That was that. Is that interesting to you? Wasn't that interesting to me?
No, I thought it was something else.
Oh, what did you think it was?
I thought you were working on like what either what people receive when they sign up, or like something to promote to our newsletter list, or like.
Oh, we could do that as well. It can be to the newsletter list as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just to folks. I sent an email to folks that have downloaded the retreat brochure from We Travel in the past,
Right.
that have never signed up.
Oh, you were sending an email to them.
I was sending an email to them.
Perfect.
With a special offer, which I didn't even tell you about.
Oh, that's right. I did see that. No, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So folks that have showed interest in the past, that have yet to take the leap, I wanted to share some recent, changes with the retreat and what we're doing and what people are saying about it. Which, speaking of,
yeah,
have you seen any of the reviews? Have you read any?
I have.
Of these?
I looked at them. I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Check this one out. So this was. I mean, some of this sounds like. I mean, on the We Travel page to put a review in. This has to be. You have to have been an attendant.
Yeah.
A participant. You had to have paid and attended the retreat. So you can do. They're called references, where you don't have to be that. But the reviews, you have to be a participant. So this is, and same with Google Maps. Like people, anybody can give us a review. They can make,
Right.
But what's cool is this. Like I'm reading this one, and at first I'm like, wow, it's good. I remember the feeling of Wes and Maria when they were here and how they talked about it and what they shared with us. So I know this is, it's not surprising in that way, but reading it, it's like, wow, you could almost like, wow, that's a fake one, like that's somebody, but listen to this, dude. Incredible. There is no better real estate group in the world to work with than the Abundant Living Ecuador team. I have not, in my years of experience in the real estate business, which Wes was in the title company business for 20 years, ever worked with a more caring and communicative group of individuals. The all-inclusive retreat takes you all around the Loja region, exploring everything Vilcabamba and the surrounding valleys and what the surrounding valleys have to offer. It was an absolute life-changing, all caps, experience. I feel more a part of the Vilcabamba community than I do even in my hometown of 30 years. If you are considering moving to Ecuador to start the next chapter of your life, I highly recommend the Abundant Living Retreat.
Sweet.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. But there's just piles of them, man. Like
no, they're really beautiful. I did read. I didn't read the We Travel ones, but I read the Google.
Yeah, and
Maps
some
ones.
of them are different. Yeah, I mean, I'll just read the first line of this one. This was by far the best trip to date for my wife and I.
Wow.
Thanks, Dane and Kate. That's awesome. Like, so the names are here. We can say the names. They're on the review in the public domain for anybody to see. So if you guys are interested in checking out what this place has to offer, thinking about doing life different, thinking about breathing a different air. How would you like? It's a different air, man. It's a different feeling. Waking up and looking at Mondongo and seeing I don't know. It's an exciting. It's like every day's an adventure here. So if you're interested in doing life differently, I wish this Vilcabamba Lifestyle Retreat was around when I moved my family here, a little over 4 years ago, because it would have made so many mistakes I made and, cut the learning curve down tremendously. And it's really, from a personal perspective, it's really enjoyable to see folks have a dream, have a plan, come here, experience what Vilcabamba and Ecuador has to offer, and then make a decision and feel either empowered to move forward and do life here, or to be educated and say, hey, it's not for me. And that's okay, because this place is not for most people. But the people it is for, you know, the retreat is really a great opportunity for you to really hit the ground running and really understand, you know, what life is like here, and, you know, have a blast as well. Have an adventure, you know, get to see some epic vistas, and you do some epic adventures, you know, that folks are saying are the best adventures of their lifetime. So if this is interesting to you, check out the link below. Check out We Travel, Abundant Living, Vilcabamba Lifestyle Retreats. The next retreat is August 29th through September 7th over, is that Labor Day?
Yeah.
Or is that Labor Day? Yeah. So you got a little extra, you could use a little bit less vacation. But if you're really wanting to escape the 9 to 5 and see what life could be like somewhere else, check it out, guys. Come and visit us.
We're in the preamble, aren't we?
I don't know.
Or did we start?
I mean, does it matter? I just wanted to read this because it was on my mind there.
Yeah. Oh, I can't laugh.
Why?
It's not a cough.
Yeah, it's not good. Oh. I had a good massage today.
Oh, that was, what's today? You're doing Thursdays.
Well, I switched with Tiff. Because, I went Tuesday, we went to Loja, took Bella, she got braces.
Yeah, I saw.
Dude, that was,
They look good, though.
Yeah, no, they're fine, yeah. So the trip there, so it's the Transbordo, right? So that's
you gotta walk.
So you gotta do the walk and whatever. So we're getting there, and I'm like, oh, please don't be raining. You know, like, that's all I cared about. I'm like, it was just a mud fest. So I'm like, just don't be raining, and I'll be okay. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it if it was raining too. But I just, you know, and we get there, and it's like a yellow taxi took us there. It was like $2 or something to Nangora. And then we get out and we start walking to find where you go down for the Transbordo. And then as we're talking to the Transito, she's like, all right, it's right here, but you can just walk straight across. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, you can it's fine, just walk straight across right now. Mm-hmm. But there were people still doing the Transbordo. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I look at Bella, I'm like, okay, so we start walking, and then there was another yellow taxi up in front of us, and we passed, and a woman like said something to Bella, and it ended up being like the grandmother of a girl she used to dance with, and she said, like, come with us, we're going to drive across as soon as the machine is coming over, and they're going to let us through.
Yeah.
Because I guess if there's something where there's a rule where if even though the road is closed, that if the taxi is home base is Loja, they're going to let them drive through.
Well, they're letting people through in general, like, a few times a day.
Yeah. So it's when it's outside of that.
Okay,
those times.
I got you.
So it was outside of those times. So they were allowing that, right? So we're like, oh, great, cool. So we just jumped in with them.
Nice.
Or we said okay. And then I'm like, I want to walk across. So Belle and I walked across, and she was like videoing, like, we're right next to the crane, like stuff you would never be able to get anywhere near in the States because it'd be roped off and there'd be so many. We're like walking right through it. Walk across, they zoom through, pick us up, take us to Loja. So, and this was the first time I'd been to the orthodontist
Who did
office.
you go to?
Diego Toledo.
Is that Oral Corp or a different one?
Different one, yeah. But we go
to the guy that It's like an apartment that he converted?
No.
Okay.
No, it's the building, this is what I was going to say. The building, I'm like, oh, the building, you walk in, the building's really nice. And I see, like, all these, 210, 211, 212, like all these different names. And I'm looking, I'm like, holy shit, there's like 30 on each floor, and they're all doctors or dentists, and they're all in the same building. And it was like 25 dentists, not like practicing together, with their own practices in the building. Then it was like dentists, eye doctors, and plastic surgeons in this building. But it was nice. You go in, the office is nice, the equipment is all.
Is this the building that's called? There's a building I saw that's called like Edificio de Doctores or something. It's
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I took a little video. I'll see if we can put it in here if I still have it.
Yeah.
Have it, but yeah, it was a great experience, man. Yeah, it was. He was in and out. It was done.
What did it cost to put braces on?
So I think all I had to pay was $500, and then the rest he takes interest-free payments for 2 years, monthly interest-free payments. I don't know, it was $2,000 maybe total. I don't recall exactly. I can ask Tiff, but way cheaper than.
Is it? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, friends I've talked to in the States are spending 6, 8, depending on the type of braces, what other work needs to be done. $10,000, $6,000. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
3 to 4 times.
That video
less expensive.
That Carl sent. I don't know how much of the Spanish you were getting, but they were joking about the bridge.
Oh, I
didn't
didn't
see
even
that?
Watch it. I watched the Transbordo one where they
That's
were
what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, when
it's
they're talking
hilarious.
about the chicken. And,
Yeah. It's really funny.
We saw the chicken. That literal chicken is still there. Like, it must be his house, right over there.
That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
Whoever put that together has a great sense of humor.
I didn't watch all of it.
Yeah.
Dude, so on the way back, we did the Transbordo. It's a good, 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk, like, and it's been dry, relatively dry. If it was raining, it would be a freaking disaster.
Yeah, I think in that video it was raining.
It was a semi mess, just doing it dry, relatively dry, with still some mud. But if it was raining at all, man, you're just going to be loaded and maybe fall. Like it's. Yeah. But there was cool. We were walking, and then all of a sudden, I see in the background, like in the mountain set back a little bit. There's this huge waterfall there. Like, awesome. Like, wow, that is so cool. Yeah. Like, you never would have known. Like, I don't know, maybe.
No, those areas are cool. I've explored some of those valleys, Rumishitana and Angorda, and there's some really beautiful land back in those.
Yeah,
in those areas, yeah.
And then some of the bridges where it's just like, you're doing the land bridge and it's like bouncing, and I'm like, just from me walking on it. And I'm like, I was like, Dad, the whole bridge is bouncing. I'm like, I'm just walking.
No, it's so indicative, that whole situation, which I love. It's just so indicative of life here.
Yeah.
It's like there's rocks falling down a mountain that they're, fixing so that people can use the road again, and you can just walk through and drive through. Yep. And in the times you can't, you walk around a bridge that may collapse at any moment.
Right. Yeah.
And like everybody, it's all cool.
It's fine.
Everybody's
Dude,
good.
On the way back, there were, I don't know, I mean, I probably saw 100 people or more, like going the other way as we were coming. There was just people with kids and babies and just like no big deal. Yeah.
No, we were joking the other day, like, so Joanna showed up to the office with both Fernando and his kid on the motorcycle.
On her motorcycle.
Yeah,
Joanna.
So I walked out and I was like, oh, in Spanish, but I'm like, oh, the Ecuadorian family, like, this is perfect, And everybody was joking, and Fernando's like, well, we're missing the refrigerator and the TV, and like, And like 2 more kids.
Yeah, and a dog.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's funny.
All right, let's do this.
Shall we?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Is this better?
I don't know. Better than what?
I mean, I wouldn't want them to miss my collarbone.
Yeah. It's a nice collarbone you have there.
I was in Franco's yesterday.
Yeah.
And he gave me I bought a bunch of stuff, and he gave me 2 boxes, and he was gonna carry one out for me. I'm like, no, let's just give it to me. It's fine. So I take them, and he made a joke. I don't remember what the joke was. And so then I made a joke back. I've never lifted weights in my life. Outside of high school, required on the basketball and football team.
I mean, if anybody watching thinks Jesse lifted weights in his life, comment muscles below. No,
so
nobody mistaken.
Yeah, I'm a skinny guy, and I've never lifted weights really, and so he said a joke to me, and so I said a joke back, and I was like, I'm holding these 2 boxes, and I'm like, I don't remember what his joke was, but it was in context, and I'm like, yeah, it's all those years in the gym, as a joke,
Yeah.
And his son starts looking at my muscles, and he's he's trying to and he totally thought I was being serious.
Oh, that's funny.
And yeah, it was. I got a kick out of it. He's yeah, it was. Anyways.
Dude, for the record, it'll be June of this year, so in a month, it'll be 2 full years since I lifted a weight too, man. I gotta change that, man. I enjoy lifting weights.
I like working out. I don't love lifting weights.
I might try to do some calisthenic type stuff.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of boxes, speaking of Franco is when Tiff's mom and uncle were here.
Yeah.
I don't know if my parents were here because they all came on the same day, but we stopped by Franco's one day and I was in the back of the truck, and Tiff just ran in to grab something quick. And he comes out with a plate, and he's cutting up stuff and giving it to everybody. I'm like, this is like the Ecuadorian Whole Foods, you know?
The Vilcabamba Whole Foods. Yeah.
Vilcabamba Whole Foods. Yeah. He's got all the stuff.
Does that make Chicky Bone or whatever Trader Joe's?
Yeah, right. It totally does. It's
we have stuff. We have the Walmart.
Right. Yeah.
Chinese store.
Chinese store, Walmart. Yep. Yeah. Exactly, dude.
Franco got me the other day.
On upselling you?
It was hilarious. No. So look. So I've known Franco since 2013.
Yeah.
And we've always been, friendly friends, somewhere in between friendly and friends. Mm-hmm. But I know him well, and we've always had a good relationship, and always enjoyed joking around with each other and stuff.
Yeah, because he spent a lot of time in Jersey, right?
In Connecticut.
Yeah.
So he lived in Connecticut for years. He's a Yankee fan.
Right.
We have the whole Northeast connection. And when me and Darnell were hanging, were around, we used to talk to him and hang out with him. So his back in the day, his deal was, he had the finca in Malacatos where he grew food, and then he had the other one, which I forget exactly where it is. It's somewhere out towards Olmedo in that area.
Yeah.
But, and he would come into town on Fridays, and he would set up outside of what at the time was the juice factory, which is now Tatooine.
Yep.
And he would sell his produce just on Fridays. And so people would come and buy, and that was his connection to the gringos here and the people looking for organic food and stuff. So, then he opens the store and blah blah blah, and I'm gonna joke around here, but jokes aside, it's great to have. It's really great to have. He's got a lot of products that we all want, and some of his cheeses are spectacular.
Yeah. And the consistency of what he has is there too.
Yeah, and that nice organic pasta I'm very appreciative of.
There's many.
And a bunch of stuff.
I like his coffee. I like
supplements and whatever. Anyways, it's a great addition. It's been there a couple of years, but his prices are not low. And, you know, you pay for what you get.
Yeah.
You pay for what you get. I'm not complaining. I wish everybody the utmost success. But his prices are a little high, and you know, he just kind of like gives you a number, you know, like, so you know, you bring all your stuff, and they'll just be like $44, right? And a couple of times I kind of like, man, this guy, he's getting me, you know, and he's a great salesman.
Yeah.
He's got that whole charisma, personality.
Yeah, you want to try this? Try this.
Yeah. Right. And again, I'm joking around. I totally am, you know, I love the store. I love Franco. So, you know, but I'm kind of like in my head about it a little bit. I'm like, I think he's like, you know, he's like gouging me a little bit, right? So I go in there. I'm in a good mood. I'm bullshitting with him. We're joking around like always. And I'm kind of like doing the math in my head just to like see like, is it ballpark where it should be? And I came out a little lower than he told me. And so I was kind of like, I'm like, Franco, just, you know, hacemos cuentas, like, just help me understand, you know, just go through the prices for me, which I've never done. So he goes through it, boom. He, like, undercharged me, bro. Yeah, he got me. Like, he totally got me. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, you got me, bro. You totally got me. Like, I'm such an asshole. Like, and I've been joking with him about it since, but it was hilarious. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna get him. I'm like, oh, I got him. I got him.
Yeah,
it was
like, you.
He got me totally.
No, I like Franco, and I'm good with paying a little bit more for the consistency and the quality, and you know,
100%.
Yeah, I'm good. You know, you mentioned boxes too, and that it made me think when we were, you know, when Belle and I went into Loja the other day.
Yeah.
You know, we left early thinking we had to do the transbordo, so we wanted to make sure we got there to our appointment on time, so we left early. Then we didn't have to do the transbordo. We got there way early, so we just stopped by a cafe and ordered some food for breakfast. So I had like this bologna, and we tried some humitas, and I had some tigrillo, and dude, I'm like a fan of tigrillo, man.
The corn, the big corn with the eggs.
Yeah, it's really good, man.
Yeah. Tigrillo.
Yeah. So we got some stuff, and then Belle didn't eat one of the humitas she got, and I'm like, all right, so I'll ask for a box, like,
right.
And you know, in my, you know, wonderful Spanish, I asked for a box, and she kind of gives me this weird look. And I'm like, why is this wasn't a weird question. Like, why do they just not do that here? Like, what's, you know, I don't know. I'm like questioning what I'm doing. And then she's like, okay. And she's like, I'll see if I tell Belle what she said. And she's like, she said she's going to go see what she can find. And I'm like, see what she can find? And she comes back out, bro, with like a box, like a brown box, like this big, like a giant box. And she's like, and she's all happy and like brings me the box, and she's like showing me the bottom, how there's like some spill, but she said it's fine on the inside. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, what do you think? I didn't just want a box just to have a box.
Yeah,
like, it was a box for the...
You're supposed to ask like para llevar. Algo para llevar.
Yeah. So... And then I'm like, all right, I'm not taking this box. So then I'm like,
obliged at that point.
I did, but then I was like, all right, I got to get rid of the food. There, a group came of four people came to the table next to us, and they just ordered. I'm like, Belle, ask them if they want the humita. Tell them we didn't touch it. It's fine. See if they want it. And she's like, no, Dad, no, it's weird. I'm like, it's not weird. Who cares? We didn't touch it. It's totally fine. Weird. Like, it's totally fine. So she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yes, I'm serious. I don't want to take the box. So she goes and she's like, excuse me, do you want this humita? We didn't eat it. We ordered too much. And the guy was kind of
like
what? And he's like, okay. So then we gave the humita and we said, okay, we don't need the box.
Oh, bro, it's hilarious. Only you get in these kinds of situations. That's fantastic.
Well, she brought a box, bro. Like
so what did you tell her?
I don't remember. Cajas, is that box?
Cartón, usually.
Cartón, maybe? I don't remember.
Caja. I mean, caja is but that's like not in that usually. Cartón is like the cardboard box.
Yeah, I don't know. But the
food
was good.
Yeah.
Nice fresh papaya juice.
Did it send you to the bathroom?
No. Why? Does it do that to you?
Not a juice, but papaya is a laxative.
Oh. Okay.
If you're ever backed up, you eat enough papaya.
I did not. Did not have to go to the bathroom. It was okay.
Oh gosh! All right, here we go.
You ready?
Yeah,
Let's
so
do
ready.
it.
Hello and welcome back to the Ecuador Insider podcast. Jesse, Brandon.
Hey guys, we're here in Vilcabamba with the Abundant Living team. To learn more about our next retreat, click the link in the description down below. From
our family to yours, welcome to Vilcabamba.